Welcome back to our channel History Coins HD. As you that old is gold, but these rare Lincoln wheat penny coin that are most valuable than you think, don't spend one of them. You're lucky if you have one of these, so please watch complete video and find your treasure. Let's start this. Top 1, where ordinary coins turn into extraordinary stories and sometimes even life-changing discoveries. If you've ever looked at an old penny and wondered, could this be worth something? Today's episode is for you, because today, we're diving into a coin that's over a century old, loaded with history, and for the lucky few who own it in pristine condition, it could be worth a jaw-dropping amount. We're talking about the 1917 Lincoln wheat penny with a little S mint mark under the date. That tiny letter makes all the difference. And once you hear its story, you'll never look at an old copper coin the same way again. Let's set the scene. The year is 1917. The world is at war. World War I is raging across Europe, and the United States, under President Woodrow Wilson, has just entered the fight. Back at home, the country is adjusting to wartime life, rationing, recruitment, and a booming industrial economy supporting the troops. It's a time of uncertainty, sacrifice, and national pride. Amid all this, the U.S. Mint is producing currency to keep the economy moving. In San Francisco, one of America's key minting cities, the presses are rolling, and among the coins produced that year is the Lincoln wheat penny bearing the date 1917 and the small but mighty S mark beneath it. This S stands for the San Francisco Mint, and it's a key detail for collectors. While the Philadelphia Mint produced most of the pennies in 1917, the San Francisco output was significantly smaller. That lower mintage instantly makes the 1917's penny scarcer, and as any collector will tell you, scarcity is step 1 towards serious value. Now let's take a closer look at this classic piece of American coinage. On the obverse side, you'll find the familiar face of Abraham Lincoln, etched with a quiet strength. He's been there since 1909, when the Lincoln penny was introduced to honor his 100th birthday. The words, "In God We Trust," curve above his head. Liberty sits to the left. And to the right, 1917, the date that marks one of the most dramatic years in modern American history. Right under the date, you might see that small S that turns a common penny into a collector's dream. Flip it over, and you're greeted by the wheat ears, graceful stalks arching over the words 1 cent and United States of America. Above it all is the Latin phrase e pluribus unum, out of many, one. This reverse design, used from 1909 to 1958, is more than just decoration. It's a symbol of America's agricultural roots and national unity. Now here's where things get exciting. The 1917's Lincoln penny is already harder to find than most, thanks to its limited production. But add in the passage of more than 100 years, through 2 world wars, the Great Depression, and countless hands and cash registers, and you'll understand why finding one in excellent condition is so rare. Most of these coins were used, abused, and eventually lost to time. They were worn down, scraped up, and spent without a second thought. So the ones that remain in brilliant, uncirculated, or mint state condition? Those are the treasures. Those are the coins that stop collectors in their tracks, and we're not just talking about age here. The real magic happens when you find a 1917's penny that's been preserved in pristine shape, showing full detail in Lincoln's face, sharp wheat stalks on the reverse, and that original copper-red luster that glows like the day it left the mint. But that's not all. Some 1917's wheat pennies have even rarer qualities, like die cracks, repunched mint marks, or subtle doubling in the date or lettering. These minting errors were never meant to exist, which makes them ultra-valuable to specialists and serious collectors. Imagine discovering one of these coins tucked inside an old cigar box, passed down from a grandfather who saved it without knowing what he had. Or spotting it inside a forgotten coin album from decades past. These finds still happen today, and when they do, they can lead to shocking outcomes. So what would one of these coins be worth in today's market? Let's say you came across a 1917's Lincoln wheat penny in near-perfect condition. Professionally graded, with deep color, flawless surfaces, and sharp detail from edge to edge. A coin that somehow survived over 100 years without a single scratch from circulation. That coin doesn't just have historical significance, it becomes an investment-grade collectible, and if you happen to have one of the finest known examples, possibly with a rare minting variation or error, then you could be sitting on a true fortune, because the most valuable specimens of the 1917's Lincoln wheat penny have sold for between $120,000 and $170,000. Let that sink in for a moment. A coin that was once used to buy a newspaper or a handful of candy in 1917, could now be worth more than many people's homes, and that's why the world of coin collecting is so thrilling. It's not just about money, it's about history, rarity, and the joy of discovery. Every coin has a story. And sometimes, that story ends in a six-figure surprise. So here's your challenge: dig through your old change jars, check those family coin albums, and look carefully at every wheat penny with the year 1917. If you see that S under the date and the coin looks unusually sharp and shiny, you might want to have it professionally graded. Because you could be holding a piece of history worth far more than you ever imagined. Top 2, where we uncover the secrets behind America's most fascinating coins. Today, we're unlocking the mystery of a little copper coin that many people overlook, but some collectors would do almost anything to own. It's time to talk about the United States Lincoln wheat penny from the year 1941, with a tiny D mark under the date. That D stands for Denver, and while most of these pennies have faded into history, a select few have become legends in the coin world. And now, to really appreciate why this coin is so special, let's step back in time. The year is 1941. The world is on the edge. Europe is deep in the grip of World War II. The United States hasn't yet entered the conflict, but tensions are rising. It's the year before Pearl Harbor, and Americans are watching world events with anxious eyes. Back home, things are still relatively calm. A gallon of gas costs about 12 cents, you can buy a loaf of bread for under a dime, and you might get a soda and some change back with a single coin, the Lincoln wheat penny. That's right, the very penny we're talking about today was used in everyday transactions across America. Kids dropped it in gumball machines. Soldiers in waiting carried them in their pockets. Families saved them in jars, unaware that decades later, one of those coins might be worth more than an entire house. Let's take a closer look at the 1941 D Lincoln wheat penny. On the obverse, we see the stoic profile of Abraham Lincoln, the first U.S. president to appear on a coin used in daily circulation. Above him, the words, "In God We Trust." On the left, liberty. On the right, the date, 1941. And just beneath that date is the small but important D mint mark, identifying it as a product of the Denver Mint. Flip the coin over, and you'll find the iconic wheat reverse, two sheaves of wheat curving along the left and right sides, framing the words 1 cent and United States of America. And right above it all, the national motto, E pluribus unum. This design, in place from 1909 to 1958, is simple, powerful, and beloved by collectors all over the world. It represents a time when America was rising, struggling, and forging its identity through some of its most challenging decades. And now, here's the surprising part. Over 128 million of the 1941 D Lincoln wheat pennies were minted. So, no, it wasn't rare at the time, not in the traditional sense. But here's the twist that makes this coin truly valuable today: condition and quality. Most of those millions of coins were spent, dropped, scraped, and worn down through everyday use. They developed nicks, lost their luster, and faded into the background of daily life. But a small number, just a few, managed to survive in near-perfect, uncirculated condition. These are the coins that never made it into someone's wallet or piggy bank. Maybe they were pulled straight from a mint roll and preserved in a coin album. Maybe they sat untouched in a collection for 80 years. Whatever the case, they stayed pristine, showing off the bright reddish copper tone and razor-sharp details that collectors dream of. But what really sets some of these 1941 D coins apart are the errors in high grades. There are examples with doubling in the lettering or date. There are off-center strikes, repunched mint marks, and other minting anomalies that make a coin one of a kind. And when a coin is both old and flawless, or even better, old, flawless, and unusual, it becomes the crown jewel of a collection. These top-tier 1941 D wheat pennies are graded using the Sheldon scale, which runs from 1 to 70. A grade in the high 60s, especially in red condition, referring to its original mint color, is what collectors and investors fight over. Because remember, while millions were minted, almost none were kept this way. And now here's the exciting part: these rare coins aren't always locked away in museums or behind glass cases. Some have been discovered in old cigar boxes, coin rolls from banks, or handed down in dusty heirloom collections. It could be sitting in your grandfather's toolbox or tucked into a forgotten coin folder from decades ago. So before you dismiss that old penny, take a second look. Examine the date. Look for the D mint mark. And check the condition. If the details are crisp, the shine is still there, and there's no obvious where it might be time to get that coin professionally graded, because the very best examples of the 1941 D Lincoln wheat penny, those found in flawless mint state with deep red luster and perhaps even a rare error, have sold to collectors for prices that might sound hard to believe. Yes, a coin that originally bought you a candy bar or a glass bottle of cola could now be worth between $110,000 and $150,000. Incredible, right? That's why coin collecting is more than just a hobby. It's a window into history, a passion for detail, and for some, a chance to uncover real-life treasure hiding in plain sight. If you enjoyed this video and want to explore more rare coins and hidden gems from American history, be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you never miss an upload. Your next discovery could be closer than you think. Top 3, where we uncover stories behind the coins that pass through our hands every single day, some of them ordinary, and some extraordinary. What if I told you that a simple penny from 1945, yes, just 1 cent, could be worth more than most people earn in a whole year? Sounds unbelievable, right? Well, don't go anywhere, because today we're diving deep into the incredible history, mystery, and potential fortune hidden in the United States 1945 Lincoln wheat penny. Now, picture this. It's the year 1945. The world is changing fast. World War II is coming to a dramatic end, the Allies are celebrating victory, soldiers are returning home, and America is entering a new era of hope and rebuilding. Amidst this historic moment, the U.S. Mint is hard at work, producing millions of coins to keep the economy running. And among those, a familiar little coin continues to roll off the presses, the Lincoln wheat penny. This is a coin nearly every American has held at some point. But the 1945 edition? That one has a special story to tell. Let's talk about its design first. On the front of the coin, you'll find the steady and determined face of President Abraham Lincoln, the same portrait that first appeared on the penny back in 1909 to celebrate his 100th birthday. Above his head, you see "In God We Trust." On the left, the word liberty. On the right, the date, 1945. And, depending on where it was minted, you might see a small letter below the date, D for Denver, S for San Francisco, or nothing at all, which means it was minted in Philadelphia. Turn the coin over, and you'll see 2 elegant wheat stalks curving up along the edges. This is what gives the Lincoln wheat penny its nickname. Between them, the bold words 1 cent and United States of America, with the motto E pluribus unum standing tall above. It's a clean, strong design that's become a classic of American coinage. Now, here's where things get interesting. The 1945 Lincoln wheat penny wasn't rare in the traditional sense. In fact, over 1 billion of them were minted that year, making it one of the most common wheat pennies produced. But, and this is a big but, what makes some of these coins incredibly valuable today is not how many were made, but how well they were preserved. Most of these pennies went straight into circulation. They were used to buy newspapers, candy bars, bus rides, ordinary things for ordinary people during an extraordinary time. They were tossed in pockets, dropped on sidewalks, and worn down by decades of use. Today, the majority of surviving 1945 pennies are scratched, faded, and heavily circulated, but once in a while, something remarkable happens. A coin is set aside, maybe by a collector, maybe by someone who noticed its shine, and it remains untouched. It doesn't get spent, doesn't get damaged, and somehow, over the years, it retains its original brilliance. These are the coins that collectors dream about. When a 1945 Lincoln wheat penny is found in near-perfect, uncirculated condition, what experts call mint state, it becomes something far greater than a piece of copper. It becomes a historic artifact, a collector's prize, and yes, even a potential investment worth thousands. And it gets even better. Some of these pennies have special features. Variations in the metal, stronger than usual strike quality, deep red luster, or even rare minting errors can dramatically increase their appeal and their value. Coins with sharp details, vibrant color, and no visible wear are incredibly rare, and when they show up at auctions, the bids can get wild. Imagine holding in your hand a coin that was made when soldiers were returning from war, when the country was celebrating peace, when gas was 15 cents a gallon and a loaf of bread cost a dime. Imagine that coin being preserved perfectly for nearly 80 years, and now it's sitting in your collection. Sounds like a fantasy? Not quite. These coins exist, and they've been discovered in old coin jars, inherited collections, or even tucked away in a forgotten drawer. That's what makes this hobby so exciting. You never know what hidden gem you might find. So here comes the moment you've been waiting for. Just how valuable can one of these coins be? Well, if you come across a 1945 Lincoln wheat penny in top tier, mint-state condition, one that's been professionally graded and preserved to near perfection, it could fetch an eye-popping price of $105,000. And for the finest, most flawless examples with rare features or exceptional quality, the value can rise even higher, to a jaw-dropping $135,000. Yes, you heard that right. A single penny from 1945, barely bigger than your thumbnail, could be worth more than a luxury car, a year's salary, or even a down payment on your dream home. So here's what you should do next. Go dig out those old coin collections. Ask your parents or grandparents if they've got a jar of pennies stashed away. Carefully check each 1945 penny you come across. Look for that shine, that detail, that lack of wear. And if you think you found something special, get it graded by a trusted professional. It could be the most valuable thing you've ever found. Top 4, where we uncover the incredible stories behind the smallest pieces of American history, coins that you might think are just spare change, but could actually be hiding a secret value that could blow your mind. Today's spotlight is on a coin that may seem pretty ordinary at first glance, but once you hear its full story, you'll never look at it the same way again. We're talking about the United States Lincoln wheat penny from the year 1954, with a tiny but mighty D mint mark beneath the date. Yep, the 1954 D Lincoln wheat penny. A coin that millions of Americans carried in their pockets, spent on candy, bus rides, and comic books, and one that still pops up in jars of old change. But here's the twist: while most are worth just a cent or two, a rare few are worth enough to completely change your financial future. Let's take a trip back to 1954. It was the era of diners, drive-in movies, and jukeboxes. America was booming post-World War II, and the baby boom generation was growing fast. Dwight D. Eisenhower was president, Elvis Presley was just beginning to rise, and the economy was roaring with optimism. Amid all that, the Denver Mint was busy churning out pennies. That's what the D on your 1954 Lincoln penny stands for: Denver. And the Lincoln wheat penny was still going strong, continuing its reign since 1909 as one of the most iconic and beloved coins in American history. On the front of the coin, we see the strong, thoughtful profile of Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States. Above him, the words, "In God We Trust." To his left, liberty. And to the right, the year 1954, followed by that little letter D. A simple design, yes, but one filled with symbolism and respect for American values. Flip the coin over, and you're greeted by the classic wheat penny reverse design, two graceful wheat ears hugging the bold words 1 cent and United States of America. Just above, the Latin phrase e pluribus unum, out of many, one. This reverse design, which lasted from 1909 to 1958, is now considered a symbol of a simpler time, and one of the most nostalgic in American coinage. With all these pennies made in 1954, over 250 million from Denver alone, you might wonder, what makes one of them special? Why should anyone care about a coin that's so common? Well, here's the thing: not all coins are created equal. Most of the 1954 D pennies were circulated heavily. They were used, abused, lost, and scratched up. But every now and then, a few were stashed away, maybe by collectors, maybe by people who just like shiny new coins. And those few that survived in absolutely pristine, uncirculated condition are where the magic lies. Professional coin graders use a scale from 1 to 70 to rate coins. The higher the number, the better the condition. A 1954 D penny graded above 65 is rare. And when you get into the highest levels, coins that look like they were just minted yesterday, with flawless surfaces, rich red color, and no signs of wear, well, those coins become hot property in the numismatic world. And that's not all. Some 1954 D Lincoln wheat pennies have unique characteristics: minor die errors, double strikes, off-center prints, or metal inconsistencies. These kinds of minting quirks make a coin even more valuable because they're so unusual. Think of them like rare misprints in vintage baseball cards or stamps. They're not supposed to exist, which makes them priceless to collectors. Now, here's what most people don't realize: some of these high-grade or error 1954 D pennies have been discovered in the most unexpected places. Estate sales, old family coin jars, coin rolls passed down through generations. It could be hiding in your attic, or even sitting quietly in a forgotten envelope in a drawer. That's what makes coin collecting so exciting. It's like a scavenger hunt with the possibility of a major reward. Imagine holding a tiny piece of copper in your hand, something that once bought a stick of gum, and knowing it's one of only a few like it in the entire world. That's not just money, that's history, rarity, and passion rolled into one little disc of metal. So let's get to the big question. What could a 1954 D Lincoln Wheat penny actually be worth today, if you're lucky enough to find one in flawless condition, professionally graded, blazing with original mint luster, and preserved perfectly over the last 7 decades? It could be valued at a jaw-dropping amount. In some rare cases, for the highest quality examples, the value can soar to between $95,000 and $120,000. Yes, you heard that right. A coin once used to buy a bottle of soda could now be worth more than most luxury cars, and that's why the world of coin collecting is more than just a hobby. It's a chance to discover hidden treasures, preserve pieces of American history, and maybe, just maybe, stumble upon something that changes your life. So don't throw away those old pennies. Get out your magnifying glass, check the date, look for that little D under the 1954. Who knows? The next great discovery might be right in your hands. Top 5. If you've ever emptied out your piggy bank or sifted through an old jar of change and thought, these are just pennies, think again. Because today, we're spotlighting one of the most overlooked coins in American coinage history, the 1957 Lincoln Wheat penny. This humble 1-cent piece may not look flashy at first. You've probably seen one, maybe even spent one, without giving it a second thought. But don't be fooled by its size, because under the right conditions, this little copper coin can be worth a staggering amount of money. And you might just have one hiding in plain sight. Let's rewind the clock to 1957. America was in the midst of a post-war boom. Eisenhower was president, the Cold War was heating up, Elvis Presley was topping the charts, and the average American home cost just over $12,000. Families were buying their first TVs, cars were getting bigger and bolder, and American optimism was sky-high. Amid this backdrop of progress and prosperity, the U.S. Mint was producing millions of Lincoln Wheat pennies, continuing a tradition that had started way back in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. The wheat penny had become a staple of American life, and in 1957, the Denver and Philadelphia mints were hard at work striking them by the millions. Let's take a closer look at the design. On the obverse, or front, of the coin, we see the stately profile of President Lincoln, facing right. Above him, the words, "In God We Trust." On the left side, Liberty. And on the right, the date, 1957. Depending on the mint location, you might see a small D beneath the date, indicating it was struck in Denver. If there's no letter, it came from Philadelphia. Flip the coin over, and you're greeted with the iconic wheat ears flanking the words 1 cent and United States of America. And just above, the timeless motto E pluribus unum, meaning out of many, one. This reverse design was about to retire just a year later, making 1957 one of the final years this beloved style would ever appear in circulation. Now you might be asking, if these pennies were minted by the millions, what makes them so special? And you're right to ask, because over 1.3 billion of them were struck that year. That's a massive number. But here's the twist: while the vast majority of those coins were used, worn down, and lost to time, a select few managed to survive in perfect, untouched condition. These are the coins that collectors go crazy for. Coins that were never circulated, never scratched or dented. Coins that still gleam with their original reddish copper shine. Coins with razor-sharp details in Lincoln's hair, the wheat stalks, and the lettering. These rare survivors are what we call mint state coins, and their value can be absolutely mind-blowing. Coin grading professionals evaluate coins using a 70-point scale, with 70 representing a perfect specimen. The higher the grade, the more valuable the coin. A 1957 wheat penny that scores 65 or above, especially in red condition, which refers to the brilliant original color, becomes a true treasure in the eyes of serious collectors. But there's more. Some of the most desirable 1957 pennies have even rarer characteristics, like double dies, off-center strikes, or other minting errors. These variations are like winning lottery tickets to the right collector. They're not just valuable, they're unique, and here's something you might find hard to believe: people have found these rare coins in the most unexpected places. Inside old desk drawers. In dusty coin albums inherited from grandparents. Even rolled up in bank wrappers that haven't been opened in decades. The key is knowing what to look for and understanding just how rare a flawless 1957 penny really is. So let's answer the question you've been waiting for: how much can a 1957 Lincoln Wheat penny actually be worth? If you're lucky enough to have one of these coins in exceptional, mint state condition, with vibrant original luster, no circulation marks, and possibly even a rare error, then you might be holding something worth a small fortune. In today's collector market, the finest examples of the 1957 Lincoln Wheat Penny have sold for between $85,000 and $115,000. That's right. A penny. 1 cent worth more than an entire house was back when it was made. So what should you do next? Check your coin collections. Look through your old change. Ask your parents or grandparents if they have any tucked away. And if you think you found a flawless 1957 penny, don't spend it, get it appraised and graded by a professional. It might just be the most valuable thing you've ever owned. Thank you so much for joining us today. If you love diving into the hidden stories behind America's rarest coins and the thrilling potential of turning small change into big money, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and tap the bell so you never miss another incredible discovery. Until next time, keep searching, stay curious, and as always, happy collecting.